Good evening and welcome to Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Joining me for this Part B show is Antonio Subrat, and as before, we have Martin Litsky. If you'd just like to say a quick hello again, guys. How you doing, Martin?
Hi guys, Flat Martin here.
And hello again to Antonio.
Hello, I thought for this part I would speak like this for maybe some parts of the show.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, we'll crack on with Part B. I will put a link to Part 1 of this show in the description box for people who are tuning in just now live. Thank you very much for rejoining us live after the slight technical hiccup that we had. But in Part 1 of the show, we were quite happily discussing maps and the Japanese map, which is, you're going to have to pronounce that name again for me, Martin. Deja vu all over.
No problem. I have everything. Kobayashi.
Kawashi. And of course the jesters, again, you'll have to do a better job than I'm about to butcher, Antonio.
The fool's cap map. Sorry, the full cap map.
By Arenatus Phineas. Or Phineas.
Perfect. I mean, that was kind of part 1 of the show, and in part 2, to be perfectly brutal, I was hoping to move on to slightly different topics anyway, because I know, Martin, you've had some, let's call it conspiratorial thoughts in regards to how YouTube operates and things that people have been telling you. I don't want to mock it straight away, but certain synchronicities that do tie into this, but I was kind of hoping would be a bit more, I don't know.
If you don't mind me jumping in right now, Nathan, I could feel that you were going to start going into the whole conspiracy, because Martin's video, he was talking about, you know, being messed around with, and just as you were about to do that, we were messed around with. That's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Not really. I think that we just had a technical glitch. It's easy enough to set up a second one.
Yeah, but it just happened to be then.
Look at my show with when I had a live event with Mark Sargent as my guest, right? I run the first show. Now, there's no reason why it should time out, okay? I know how Google Hangouts work. And the first show timed out after like 10 minutes. I set up next show. And then Robin Poe and Funky Word is on there. We do a couple of minutes. It crashes again. Time out, it says. Now, you know, I left it infinite, no finishing time. I know how it works. And then the third time, it stayed on. Now, I could just presume that, okay, it's just one of those things, a glitch, whatever. But 3 times, and I kind of thinking, because, you know, high-profile guests, and that is just, I don't know. I feel like, oh, they're just cutting me off. They're just stopping me talking, or stopping us talking.
I don't think so. I had all sorts of technical difficulties with Math Powerland. And ultimately, yeah, definitely. We did a 3.5-hour show, and I think it was 3 hours.
Yeah, I know. I loved that. That show was brilliant. Show that was.
I mean, you tuned in live, but most people who look at the re-upload of that show, when it was processed, it ended up being 55 minutes. And immediately I had to sort of say to Math Powerland, you know, I haven't got a backup copy of it. I just let it go out live, and normally it processes happily. But while we were doing it, there was various technical issues, some of which Math did actually get onto the show that people can still watch, where he talks about his mouse going wrong. JLB jumped on it and said, you know, he feels... Sorry, you go ahead, Martin.
No, I just said I agree. I seen, yeah.
But I don't think that's anything conspiratorial. I don't think Math or myself in that particular instance were being persecuted and therefore having their hangout messed around with. I just think it was a technical issue. And after a bit of investigation, it turned out there was loads of random YouTubers on a couple of days that had their, you know, the hangouts go wrong. And what we've experienced today is just one of those things. These things are not infallible. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I know. It is quite a remarkable thing that we're doing anyway, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I remember a comedian doing a good sketch on it, and he was talking about the day somebody gets Wi-Fi for the first time, and they plug up the Wi-Fi, they connect their first mobile device to it, and they're amazed. It's just the most angelic moment that they've got Wi-Fi. 15 minutes later, the thing disconnects, and it's an absolute outrage. Oh, we're living in a third world here.
Yeah, I know. The third world. Yeah, they do, don't they? No internet. What's this? The third bloody world. Yeah, no. It's crazy, isn't it?
I tell you what.
For 10 seconds, it's a disgrace.
You know how?
Oh, it's terrible.
You know how people who watch television, that's part of their programming. They watch television. They get back from school or from work and they watch television. And we're kind of the same, but we engage with the internet. And when we lose the internet, it's like, oh, if it's something that can't be fixed immediately over a phone call to your internet provider, and we have a period of days without a computer, Martin, like you just had, it's like you wake up to the world of books. It's like, oh, books. I forgot about books. You know,
no, I read anything.
I know. But for a lot of people out there, it's like, oh, what now? You know, if you don't have a television that you can switch on, then you're going to have to do something physical in the real world, and books and drawing and the outdoors. It's a great world.
I'm sure this happened in The Simpsons, didn't it? When they all, I can't remember what they lost. I think it was all power, and suddenly all the children went outside and they're all playing with sticks and hoops, and there's the beautiful, tranquil music.
Yeah.
Life returns to normal. The jungle takes back over.
I noticed Chris Rock brought up Red Dwarf for you on your show. I thought, oh, cool. How can he know Red Dwarf? They know about that in America then. I didn't realise this.
An American told me there's a new series. They've apparently filmed 2 more 6-episode series, and they're due out. I had no idea. I don't watch TV, though. This is the problem.
No, same here. I'm behind as well. I haven't got a clue what's happening anyway. Oh, that'd be cool.
But could you bear to watch it? I mean, it was great when you thought they were whizzing around space in the mining ship Red Dwarf.
I know.
But now...
I know, I'm the same. I'm the same. I can't watch any of it, Nathan. Oh no, I'm sorry. I just can't even abide it. Even if you look at the globe now, when you look at it, you feel a bit silly that you actually fell for it. How could I have not seen this before? I keep asking myself, how did I miss it before? People have, I've seen pictures presented in 1922 of azimuthals presenting the same information as available now. So it's always been there right the way through the last century. Yeah, I missed it. I didn't pick up on it.
Rammed down our throats. I was watching Family Guy, so the cartoons, and not Family Guy, American Dad, and the dad.
Yeah, American Dad too.
He gets locked up, so he's TP'd a house, and they lock him up, and he's arranging to set up the warden with a kickball that's filled with a hornet's nest. And what do they use? What do they use as a kickball in the jail cell? They've got a globe. So they use the globe, they split the globe in half to put the hornet's nest in. And you think they're in a jail cell. How many jail cells in the country do you think have got a globe in them?
Yeah, that's bollocks, isn't it? Yesterday, listen to this, I don't watch the news, but today was the opening of Parliament. I didn't realise they had a new black rod. Who's a black gentleman? I had a shock of my life. But it was a real den of iniquity in that. It was disgusting. But separately, yesterday, I caught the end of Antiques Roadshow. And the woman...
Sorry, Martin, before you say that, I'm going to have to interrupt. You've just explained Black Rod. I know who Black Rod is, so does Antonio. There's going to be a lot of Americans watching who have no idea.
Right, he's a guy who opens Parliament every year, once a year, and it's a process, a ritual they carry out every year, where basically he carries this staff, which has been used apparently for centuries, and he will tap like that, bang, 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 the doors of the Houses of Parliament and ask for entry. And it's entry basically all of the politicians following behind. They have to ask permission of the Crown to enter. It goes back to the days of Oliver Cromwell and the closing of Parliament. So it goes back way steeped in our history. And Black Rod basically he's quite a famous gentleman in Britain. Everyone knows of his existence, and they've just replaced him with a really large 6'4" coloured gentleman, which is really unusual because in a house of
not a coloured gentleman, black
gentleman.
We don't have to police our language, there's no. I think language is when there's bad intent behind them. Yeah.
I say black in Britain. I got pulled for it. It's not somebody said it's not black. It's coloured. So but I've always said black, so I don't really know how to phrase it without upsetting anybody.
Are you sure about that? I think it's the other way around. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I got loads of friends here, and I call them black.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's the intent behind the language. If you say coloured in a derogatory term...
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows me anyway, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But back to what we were saying,
the guy heading this ceremony is now a black guy.
Yeah,
with
it was fascinating.
Yeah, I tell you what I think is fascinating, that we still have that ceremony. Like, what is this? It's like
You should have watched it. It was ritual.
Yeah,
It looked like voodoo or something. It was really weird.
yes, and so there are people in the UK who say, oh, it's part of the heritage. It's regalia. It's interesting. It's like, yeah, fair enough. You could also see the point of view of the anarchist saying this is a farce and a show, because it is a show. So, you know, I don't think, I look forward to the day 2,000 years in the future where we don't have those things, you know?
Yeah, pomp and ceremony. They call
I was just going to say, took the words out of my mouth, Nathan. But it was, you know, it's attractive to behold for the outside world to see, you know, with the colour and, you know, the people that were there. But, yeah.
But your mother won't have a bad word said against the royals,
No,
will she?
she forbids it. She absolutely loves the royals. She's met most of them. I've met a few of them myself. And, you know, I just get really love. Prince Charles was adorable. Such a lovely fella. Camilla was nice too. Really, you know, Lady Di, she was a darling, and the Queen Mother, she was lovely. So that's my personal experience. What am I supposed to lie and say? You know, no, I got real
let me get
bad.
this straight, Martin. Are you saying you've met that list of people?
Yeah, and my mother has.
No way. Right.
They've
got to go into that a bit more.
I've got a photograph here. Mum, did we meet Camilla and Charles 2 years ago up Heidi's village? Can't be bothered telling you now. Yeah.
Okay. I think what Nathan is saying, you've got to tell us more, just for the people out there.
Right. Well, I didn't meet her, but she came up to me. Lady Di did at an opening of a leisure centre, and we'd been waiting hours in the cold. She came up, she stroked my little niece's face, and she said to me, "Has she been waiting long?" I said, "Yeah, hours in the cold." She said, "Oh, God love her," and walked on and smiled at me. So that's when I met Lady Di. Prince Charles nodded at me, and then later, 2 years ago, they went to my sister's village in the Vale of Glamorgan, which was really weird because my city's of like 300,000 people, yet they went up to a village in the Vale of a population of around 60, which I found really strange. Apparently it's to do with the organic foods he was interested in. But so seen them there. They spoke to my mother for ages. They just smiled at me. Who else have I met? The Queen's mother I seen at Wells Cathedral. I shouted to her and she waved over at me. But my biggest and best claim to fame, apart from Nelson Mandela, is because I met him too. Well, I should say he met me, actually, to be more correct, is Pope John Paul II. He went past my house, right outside this door here, going to Roos Airport to fly out in his Pope mobile, and my friend with me shouted, "Skinhead!" like that, and he looked over us, and he smiled at me, and blessed me like that. And I went, "Hiya," and he went, "Hiya." So I first seen Pope John Paul, Nelson Mandela met me, load of the royals. So
when did you meet Nelson Mandela?
I took my son to, he was in Cardiff city centre in Park Hotel during a conference, I think it was NATO, some shit anyway. So I took my son, I thought it was important for my son to see him before he died. So I took him, I waited a half hour or so, he came out looking really majestic, shiny in this iridescent gold lame shirt he had on, which was magical. And I thought, well, I'm the type of person, as you know, Nathan, that needs the attention. So I done one of my sonic whistles that cannot be ignored. Within seconds, I had the Secret Service all around me. One there, and one there, pinning me in like this. Okay. So he walked over to me. I said, "Oh, Nelson, love you." And he went like that on my son's face, on his cheek, and went, "Hello, boy," to my son. And my son's like, "Who's he, Dad? Who's he?" I said, "I'll explain to you later." He didn't understand. He was only about 6, 7. I had him on my shoulders. So Nelson, the only person he spoke to was me, and come over to was me, and then he walked off and got into his limousine and went. And everybody was staring at me. It was really weird. And then I said to this lady, "Who's up next?" She said, "Tony Blair." I said, "Come on, Lawrence, we're going." Don't want to see him. This was in around 2006. Not long after that's what it was. He came to Britain after he got released from prison when he done that tour. So it was around that time.
So about 10 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, I've met a lot of famous people, or they met me, I should say.
Then you hear some of the stories of the royals. I know the Queen Mum. There was one story that was banded around. How true it is, you just don't know. But she used to rent a TV, and she'd rent the same black and white rubbish TV year after year. And you look into this story a little bit further, and you'd find that, yeah, she was renting this TV from the same rental place each year, but she'd blow 30 grand on a horse. And that's what she was watching.
Really? On a black and white telly? That's insanity. Well, I suppose it's because of an era. You know, look where she's from. She's basically a Victorian, wasn't she? So
forget the telly. It's just blowing 30 grand on a horse that I was concerned about. Forget the 12 quid rental fee.
That is crazy. A friend of mine, he was a lorry driver for TNT, the lorry company, and he pulled up next to the wall, that giant wall by the side of Buckingham Palace, to look at his A to Z of London. And by the time he pulled the map out of the glove compartment, he had the Secret Service on him. That quick.
Hey, do you talking of Secret Service? Do either of you remember the Chinese Falun Gong practitioner who made her way into the grounds of the White House when the Chinese premier met George W. Bush Jr. George W. Bush, and she stood in the press. She was part of the press league. She had a sash on her, and she basically shouted down the prime minister the president in English and in Chinese, and then she walked out. So what kind of magical spell was this woman waving? Because you would think that the Secret Service would be all over her. How did she get in there? Who is she, and how did she do this? Because it was reported in the news. I saw it, and she was basically saying that the Chinese government was committing atrocities against the Falun Gong. Do either of you remember this?
No, I don't remember it at all. But that's very intriguing.
Man, it was a bit like the Chinese guy who stopped the tanks on Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
It was one of those situations where you think, how can one human being do this? It was awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot to do with that guy with Tiananmen Square and his whereabouts. He's never come forward, has he? And there is people saying, you know, whether it really happened at all, but the way they portray it.
It's back to all the world's a stage, and everything we're presented with in the media spin in some way or form.
Yeah, the world's set up in a really, really, really funny. If everyone could just wake up, if everyone switched the telly off, wouldn't everything be a lot easier? You know, without the brainwashing, you know, the hate they're spewing about the Muslims on my telly, yet they're flooding the city with them. That's what kind of game is that? Oh, well, obviously it's divide and rule. We know what game it is, but you know, that's sick. Can't people even see through that?
Is it the Hegelian? How do you pronounce that? I can never quite pronounce that.
Hegelian
dialectic.
Dialectic. Thank you.
One. So yeah, divide and conquer is ultimately going to be the rule of the day, and if it's back to, it always comes back to flat Earth, doesn't it? It's back to being on a spinning ball and having that as your mentality in life. You know, if your outlook is spinning and whirling and traveling thousands of miles an hour on a ball, millions of miles an hour through space, then that's going to be your general frame of mind. And back to flat Earth, leaving us a little bit more grounded and realizing that you can just switch off the TV. Don't need it. Don't need reports on everything. Don't have to find out that Red Dwarf's on next week or whenever it is. Someone might tell you if you're interested in. But Insanity is Sanity had an interesting spin on this, because when I can't remember what the question was about, he said he held up a copy of Star Wars, a game, and said, look, I can still play this game. It doesn't spin me out. But to me it does. I can't help noticing the layers of programming when I watch TV. What about you, Martin? Do you still dip into TV now and again?
No, not at all. I hate it. My mother has it on, like she watches soaps like the EastEnders and that, and I'm forced to sort of be in the room. But I obviously headphones on and I go into my flat Earth world, so I get all the information I need, the real news, from the internet. I'm a flat earther. I'm privy to this brilliant information sharing service, so I actually get the real news now, which is really, really good. But obviously I don't take everything as face value, Nathan, but this is, you remember way back when the internet came out, we all said to one another, don't believe everything on the internet. And here we are 15 years or 10, 15 years later, you know, people are just happily believing everything on the internet.
Well, quite right. I think I spoke about this with Mark Knight or Wakey,
yeah,
and he was explaining that they put he called them hooks. They put the hooks into Windows 7 to monitor your behaviour, listen to your mic, watch what you're looking at, see what the camera can see, and they just didn't tell anybody. Then it comes to Windows 10 when they openly confess to this, and people are up in arms for a couple of months. Then nobody cares. You know, it just gets explained away with Siri or whatever yeah, I mean, it just gets frittered away into nothing, and people just accept this stuff. You know, it is 1984,
it is.
But we're quite happy to accept that.
It is exactly that. Just they forget the day before, and you could go a month back, and mind you, what I find with flat earthness, have you noticed, Nathan? If you look a day or two back in your comments or whatever, or your mail, it seems like weeks ago, because it's so fluid and quick.
Life flies by when you're having fun, that's all I can say.
It must be that, really, it is that. But something funny's going on with time, and I thought it for a long, long time. Not only are the days going too quick, there just seems to be something funny going on with time. Now, obviously, time's their concept, isn't it? It's made up by them, you know. The sun travels around, as we know, around, but I mean the whole concept.
So we got timeanddate.com. We know exactly what we're on about.
I don't know. I just feel there's something up with time. It doesn't. I know the internal clock interprets time differently. When you're having a great time, things fly by, time flies by, and if you're in a doctor's waiting room, you know, it's an eternity. It sucks. So you've got this internal clock, haven't you? A time clock that perceives time.
Ours is all buggered at the moment. I mean, without being rude about it, we were talking about this last night, weren't we? When we were discussing this very show, we were talking about the fact that most of us, would you say we're all insomniacs on this panel?
I don't go to bed. I went at 5 this morning. I can't. Not that I didn't want to sleep, and because I'm addicted to FE, but I just can't sleep. I got so many questions, and something will just come to mind. And you know, I have so many links coming in constant, and it sends me down this rabbit hole or that rabbit hole, and actually detracts me. And then I try to get back to where I was initially. Oh, it's difficult. But I got so much. I've got so many different things happening. It's incredible. I'm so lucky.
Do you know what I think?
Sorry, go on, Antonio.
I was going to say, what I think it is, not so much insomnia, it's the interest. And the time going faster, like you said, Martin, if you're waiting for the doctors, it drags an eternity. But because we're so interested in what we're doing, it goes fast. Now, in the book Catch-22, one of the characters is afraid that he's going to die on the next mission. And what he does is he climbs a tree to try to make himself as bored as possible, so that life will seem longer to him. And he explains this to Yossarian when he sees him up on the tree. So when you're bored, when life is tedious, it drags. And when you're really enjoying it, when you're really interested, it goes faster. And I think is our consciousness, when our consciousness is engrossed in something, it stops measuring time so clearly. It happens to me every single time I'm doing a painting. If I have anything that I must do by a time, I have to set myself an alarm clock, because I know I will not be able to keep track of time. I won't be able to look at my watch. I will forget, so my alarm goes off to remind me. And it's when you're engrossed, it's your consciousness. When you're focused on something, if you're focused on something you're enjoying, then time goes faster. If you're focused on pain, if you're in pain and you're focusing on that pain, the pain gets worse and time really slows down too. So there are certain elements, I think it's when it's something that fascinates you, that time will just go fast, and the flat earth and everything that's going on is fascinating.
That's what makes TV more entertaining for me. I mean, back when I first started making videos, the TV would come on and I'd just see a globe or see something that was globe programming, and rather than actually wanting to watch the show, I'd want to communicate that to people, and I'd engulf my time with making that video, and that's where the time would disappear. And I'd say to people, it takes 30 seconds to make a YouTube video. Then you go back and actually assess how long it's took you, and it isn't 30 seconds.
No, as if and the concept, and getting it out there as well, in your way, it's all thought, and that's exhausting in itself, Nathan, isn't it?
Yeah, along with the, possibly paranoia. I don't want to belittle your thoughts on back to YouTube, but people get kind of caught up in
We do.
their own affairs and assume that there's something nefarious going on when often
Yeah.
there's just cogs that don't quite work properly, and those cogs not functioning properly doesn't necessarily mean that you're being targeted.
No, I know. It's what it is with me, Nathan. It's because like flat Earth British and that. I suppose I do get a bit paranoid, but I'm not like, somebody said to me the other day, Martin, you smoke too much, you're getting paranoid. Well, I'm not at that age where I get paranoid anymore. It's just, I'm just on my guard, brother. That's all. You got to be, haven't you?
Well,
Just in case.
understandably, I mean, we're in a position where I made a video log about this today or yesterday about people who are faceless trolls in this arena.
I know.
And when they're people who are banging the standard drum, they're just saying there's nothing to see here. Everything's okay. It's all correct.
Yeah.
Those people have got no reason to hide. And we, by contrast, have got every reason to hide. We're banging what some might consider a very strange drum, and we're not hiding. Especially on this panel, we've all got our real names being used. None of us are hiding anything. You're just laying it out there, wearing our hearts on our sleeves, and yet, gets my point, we're the ones that get persecuted. We're the ones that get ridiculed.
Weird, isn't it? Yeah, the faceless, no name, no face. Got all the answers, but none at all. Yeah, I noticed.
I was going to link this into the kind of concept behind the faceless jester with the Makeda projection on his that drawing, because it does link quite nicely in certain elements to how it was certainly described to me on the video. You did give the a plug to the videographer who brought that map to certainly my attention. What was her name again?
Nicole Cote.
Nicole, yeah.
So she gave a really good explanation. Again, I'll drop a link to that video.
She's really good. Really good. She brought that forward. Yeah.
And really good that she shows her face, like you were saying, Nathan.
Yeah.
There are lots of people out there who, for whatever reasons, don't want to show their face, and that's fair enough. But the people who do show their face, the minute you show your face, there's like a focus of trolls on you, but they go away. Once they last a while, and then they move on to the next new face.
Noticed.
And then they go away. I think most people who are happy to show the face, or who don't care about showing the face, they're the kind of people that are just going to shrug it off, because that's what we have to do. We have to shrug it off. It's a response. Are they paid? Are they doing it off their own volition? Is it an organized thing? Who cares? It's not important.
I know what it
important is. Go on.
It's a spiritual battle, brother.
Yeah, well, there is that.
I tell you what, I can't emphasize how profound some of the battles that I have with these people are. They're like life-changing. They really affect me. And here is just some of the arguments or debates or discussions I have to have. But these are people, remember, with real feelings, and I'm a person with real feelings too. And it is.
Well, this is something I was hoping to address, actually, and I've been asked so many times, where do you see this going in 6 months? Where do you see this in 2 years? Where do you see this in 100 years? And frankly, I don't see a massive paradigm shift. If nothing else, the people that may be perceived as being nefarious and trying to stop the floodgates of FE, if they even exist, are slowing the awakening, which is potentially a good thing. If too many people woke up immediately, there may be chaos. People wouldn't be able to get it.
That, Nathan.
So if this is the case, you've got a position where I want to see it progress as follows. I would like to see people just consider the normality of what we see, the obvious nature of the Earth being flat, as considered the norm without any ridicule. And likewise, there would be no ridicule to people who still want to consider their all-Earth existence. They can go about that happily, and I'm more power to you. If you want to think you live on a globe, good for you. I'm more than happy to smile at those people, not in any sort of derogatory you're an idiot kind of way, and just think good for you. You've got your beliefs and I've got mine. Now over time I see it as the case that people will accept the the flat earth normality versus the stupidity of heliocentrism, and eventually people will probably ridicule the people who think that they live on a ball because of its stupid nature. And David Weiss said this really well when he was, in jest, saying that when people look at his Earth is flat T-shirt and say, what? The Earth is flat? Well, he can turn around and say, yeah, obviously. Where have you been? And I think that's kind of many a true word that I think will be the way it moves on, whether or not we've got nefarious powers that should not be stopping the floodgates of truth. After all, where we live is just where we live. It's what we observe and it's what we see. It's just reality. There's no other way of describing it. I know your debate with JLB's coming up, and we're going to, we are going to moderate and hopefully say as little as possible, but yourself and JLB will be debating the very nature of where we live and saying, is it flat? Have you got anything you'd like to plug in that regard? Because we'll wrap up this show fairly soon.
Yes, what I would like to say is to everybody out there who has a compulsion to talk about the flat Earth with people that you know are not flat Earthers. I noticed this yesterday. I went to the gym with two friends, and one of them is alarmed. He displays signs of fear when a new pointer to the highlights that we live on a flat Earth, when that's pointed out to him, he responds with fear. And what I think we have to do is we have to figure out a way, or some of us, at least me, I'm trying to figure out a way of first of all reassuring the human being with whom we are communicating that the flat Earth does not call them evil. It doesn't call their thoughts, their beliefs, all of those things that are in their unconscious mind, telling them that they don't want to acknowledge the world is flat because there's an unavoidable conclusion that it was made, that consciousness, that the world functions differently to what we've been taught, and that maybe their thoughts, which might have been something they were not very happy about, might have been registered somewhere by some mechanism. So they have this fear response, and what we see with Red's rhetoric and JLB and people like this is the fear response. They're masking it with ridicule, or they're masking it with anger, but the truth is it's a fear response. If they were not afraid, they would look and go, huh, that's interesting, next, but they don't.
Well, if I wasn't the moderator, I'd just nod along, but you could even consider that smack talk.
Well, okay, for smack talk, I will say this, and you told me it's not a good analogy, and I'm just using it, superficially. So, flat Earth equals, let's say, straight. Globe Earth equals, let's say, gay. Perfectly fine. Neither equals gender fluid or maybe bi. And I'm going to ask JLB which of the three he is.
Dear God.
That's my smack talk.
Yeah, that would be where I stepped in and said that was a non sequitur or a yeah.
You guys said, Martin.
I'd use some of JLB's words just to really stick it to you.
Yeah, it's fine. That's fine.
That was me hoping for a plug with you giving the date and stuff, so I'll do it instead.
Oh,
so
yeah, go for it.
So it's Saturday the 28th and Sunday the 29th, so it's midnight in UK time on the 29th Sunday of this month.
Excellent.
Cool.
Have you got anything you'd like to round out the show? I know it's been a bit distorted, Martin, with it being in two parts, but such is technical life. Have you got any final things you wanted to say about the maps or anything before we round out the show?
I'm digging deeper. It's basically there's a lot to unravel. And basically I'm early days with it yet, so just bear with me. I just want to say, sorry, can I just say I want to thank you, Nathan, for inviting me and you, Antonio, on this show. It's like one of my favourite shows, and I'm on you, so I'm really made up. Cool. And I want to thank all the guys in chat. I love them all. They're all the best people imaginable, and I mean that. Every one of them, okay? And I just leave it at that. The maps, yeah, I'm digging deeper. I'll do what I can, and it's my hobby anyway, so I'd be doing it if I wasn't a flat earther. So anyway, thanks, Nathan and Antonio.
You're welcome. If I can just add something, going back to what you said about where might this be in 6 months' time. So if the tide is being slowed by trolls, by whatever, or whether it's just a natural progression, it's not important. What's important is this: there's never been a situation where not even in the truther community with 9/11, where there's been this amount of engaging by all kinds of different people who are then making connections and friendships with other people regarding the true reality of the world and the true reality of consciousness and our existence. This has never happened before. We have to remember this. So although things might slow down, videos might slow down, the friendships and the connections that are made are true and they're real and they will remain. You might, like with natural friends, you know, associated with proximity, you spend more time and less time with some, and it has a natural ebb and flow. We will see the same with the Flat Earth, not just with the videos, there will be an ebb and flow, but also with the associations and connections we've made with people like Udina Walker, that's just to say one, GeoShifter, everybody, all the connections we all have, Rick Woods, these are just connections that are there, you know, and I think if we use that as a way of saying thanks to the world, I think that's great because it puts us in a positive framework.
Yeah, it makes that brother. That's beautiful. It's true.
That's actually another useful segue into a link to making connections in Oxford. So maybe you could give us a nice happy plug for the Flat Earth meeting down there, Antonio, if you would, just before we round out.
Okay, so we're meeting on the 11th of June in Oxford at the Oxford Camera. We're all taking our own food. There will be vegans and carnivores. There's no judgment here. Take your own food, what you'd like to eat, and we will go for a picnic by the Thames or somewhere pretty. And Oxford has some very lovely spots.
It's the ISIS in Oxford, not the Thames.
The ISIS?
Yes, it turns into the ISIS as soon as you leave. When you go past Slough, the Thames turns into the ISIS.
Oh, right, okay. So I have a really funny story about a guy punting. You get punters there, you know, punts, which are like a little bit like a gondola for any Americans listening or non-Brits. And you can come out of the small tributaries that go into this big river, which becomes the Thames. And somebody once just went a little bit too far. He'd had a warning from somebody else who'd just also gone too far, but this person had just gone that little bit too far. A punt is a long stick that you use to push on the bottom. And he just pushed a little bit too far, and he held himself at this angle where his feet were on, where his girlfriend on the boat was laughing, trying to squat, you know. Oh, it was awesome. It must have been 15 seconds and then splash. It was great. Yeah, so back to the meeting. So we're meeting in Oxford. Everybody's welcomed. Bring your own food. If the weather turns, which it could, you know, it's Britain, then we go to the Odders pub in Britain. And even if it doesn't turn, if we all decide afterwards to go to the pub, we go. And we'll storm it. It was built in 1440.
I'm going to be there.
It's the 11th of June, is that right? Saturday the 11th of June.
Saturday 11th of June.
It's midday at the Oxford Camera, and as Antonio says, we'll move on to the Bear Inn, which was built in 1242. Is that right?
Yes. And if anybody wants to come and thinks that they can't make it for midday, we're going to be there all day. Come whenever you can make it. You can, through 6 degrees of separation, you can contact me or Nathan or Martin or anybody else you might be in contact with, and just let us know, and we'll send somebody to meet you.
Yeah,
superb. Martin Lietzke, once again, thank you very much for being on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall for the second time tonight.
Excellent. I'm really chuffed. Thank you. I just say, anybody wants any flyers, which are leaflets in America, I didn't realise you didn't know what they were. Contact me. You'll find my address on my About page, which you'll find on my website, Flat Earth British. And they are all out over the plane. I've sent thousands out this morning, and they are being litterbugged across the plane as we speak. So if you want to indulge in Operation Litterbug.
Brilliant.
Thanks again, Martin. It's been a pleasure. And Antonio, thanks again for being on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Thank you to all of you who joined us for the second time in chat. Thanks again for joining us once again live. It's been brilliant having you here. I will see you all in the next video.